For a few years, the state's contracted non-emergency medical transportation company has made lawmakers concerned over the 10-year, $750 million budget, the $750 million agreement. Now some lawmakers are banding together to make the message clear. In a bipartisan effort, Maine lawmakers have signed a letter to Governor Janet Mills calling for her administration to depart from motive care. The Colorado-based company has gone into bankruptcy since the contract began in 2023 after outbidding Penquis and Waldo Cap. The decision was later appealed, however, nothing was reversed. Now, around 130 lawmakers in the Senate and House signed a letter in response to complaints from constituents. The president and CEO of Penquis says Mainers cannot meet their needs if services are unreliable, and she hopes this letter speaks for itself.